For many, Vietnam is still remembered through the striking images of the war that shook the world in the 20th century. But that is only part of the story. Time has passed, and the country has followed a new path, turning lessons from the past into roads to prosperity. It rebuilt its cities and also its identity. Today, among millenary temples and golden dunes stretching to the horizon, among rural villages that preserve traditions and landscapes that seem taken from a dream, Vietnam surprises. Did you know there is even a kiss bridge designed over the sea? Or that this is the country of 77 million motorcycles, elephant races, and buffalo fights that draw huge crowds? Here, giant caves hide inner beaches, and unique flavors tell stories in every dish. Join us on this 360-degree journey through this spectacular country. We will explore its lush geography, a history of resilience, living traditions, a transforming economy, and a culture that captivates the world. Get ready to change the way you see Vietnam. Vietnam, with its S shape, stretches an impressive 1,650 kilometers, 1,025 miles, from north to south. But at its narrowest point, it barely reaches 50 kilometers, 31 miles, wide. Imagine a country that goes from tropical heat in the south to frozen mountains in the north, like Phan Xipang, which at 3,147 meters high, about 10,325 feet, is the rooftop of all Vietnam and an epic trekking destination for the bravest. The country is a paradise of biodiversity. 75% of the territory is mountainous, and its forests, caves, and beaches form landscapes that look like they belong in a movie. Ha Long Bay, with its 1,600 limestone islands and crystal-clear waters, is rightfully one of the new 7 natural wonders. Among these islands, rare geological formations, created by millions of years of erosion, rise. A natural spectacle and one of the country's most sought-after destinations. The Sun Dung Cave, in the heart of Phong Nha Khe Bang, is the largest in the world. Stretching 9 kilometers, about 6 miles, with a hidden forest inside. If you think this sounds like something out of a movie, you're wrong. It's real. Here, adventurers and scientists discover new worlds inside one of the largest cave systems on the planet. The Mekong Delta, in the south, is one of Vietnam's largest farming zones. With its waters snaking between islands and swamps, it accounts for a large portion of the nation's rice and fishing production. But it's not just agriculture that makes the Mekong so unique. Its web of canals forms a river system where life and nature blend. Millions of people live on the water, in floating houses, with markets that move to the rhythm of the river. Further north, the Red River Delta, home to the capital Hanoi, is the cradle of Vietnamese civilization. Around 30% of the country's population is concentrated there, where the first rice tribes began to settle, creating a society that has existed for more than 18,000 years. Today, this region is the economic and cultural heart of Vietnam. From south to north, Vietnam holds landscapes that seem almost unbelievable. Tropical islands like Cat Bao in the north offer fine sandy beaches and mountains covered with tropical forests, while the Mekong in the south reveals an entirely different side. Immersed in its vast waters, are cities, markets, and rice fields that feel like a universe of their own. And if you think Vietnam is only about nature, think again. The city of Da Nang, in the center of the country, is a great example of how tradition and modernity meet. The Marble Mountains are not only a tourist destination, but also a spiritual connection between heaven and earth. Here, Buddhist temples carved into the rocks safeguard centuries of history. Every corner of Vietnam has something unique to offer, whether it's a mountain peak, a secret cave, or a floating city in the Delta. This country, with its breathtaking landscapes, is an invitation to adventure, discovery, and culture. Among Vietnam's remarkable landscapes beats a history forged by epic struggles and profound revolutions. The story begins in a distant past when the country lived under Chinese rule for almost 1,000 years, resisting through legendary revolts, such as those of the Trung sisters, women who led militias against the occupiers in the 1st century AD. After the fall of Chinese dominations, the country reached stability under the Li, Tran, and Lei dynasties, which ruled between the 11th and 18th centuries. These periods were marked by cultural growth, territorial expansion, and resistance against invaders such as the Mongols. Hanoi was consolidated as the capital. Buddhism flourished, and administrative structures emerged that helped form Vietnam's national identity. These imperial eras laid the political and spiritual foundations of what would later become modern Vietnam. Foreign influence gained strength in the 19th century when France occupied the region and turned Vietnam into part of French Indochina. This colonial rule lasted until World War II, when Japan invaded and assumed military control of the country. After Japan's surrender in 1945, Ho Chi Minh proclaimed Vietnam's independence in Hanoi, but the French soon tried to reclaim power. This sparked a new war, led by the Viet Minh movement. Vietnam's victory at the Battle of Dien Bien Phu in 1954 ended French colonization and led to the temporary division of the territory at the 17th parallel, separating North and South. But peace would be short-lived. From 1955 to 1975, Vietnam endured a second devastating war, a civil conflict that dragged the entire world in. In the north, a communist republic led by Ho Chi Minh. In the south, backed by the US and its allies, an anti-communist regime. The escalation of American involvement, with more than 500,000 soldiers, turned Vietnam into the stage of the Vietnam War, the American war for locals. The result was brutal. Millions dead, both civilians and combatants. Thousands of tons of bombs dropped, and scars still alive in the country's memory. The Tet Offensive of 1968, especially in Hue, became marked by tragedies such as the Hue Massacre, which resulted in the deaths of up to 6,000 civilians and prisoners, leaving a legacy of horror during the 26 days of combat in the city. The Communist forces of North Vietnam, armed by China and the Soviet Union, followed an efficient strategy coordinated by General Vo Nguyen Giap, a master of logistics and the architect of victory over both the French and the Americans. The final blow came in Saigon. In April 1975, Communist troops occupied the south of the country, reunifying it under a single socialist republic in July 1976. Today, former war sites are global attractions. The Cu Chi tunnels and the War Remnants Museum symbolize this historical reconciliation. bringing veterans and visitors together in a dialogue of redemption, memory, and peace. With nearly 100 million inhabitants, Vietnam preserves a culture deeply rooted in tradition, diversity, and community life. The foundation of society is the family, considered more important than friendships or work relationships. It is common for children to live with their parents until marriage, and often to remain under the same roof even afterward. Caring for one's parents in old age is seen as a sacred duty, passed down from generation to generation. Respect for elders is a central virtue, reflected in daily gestures and family life. This sense of unity also appears in the streets, in rituals, in sports, and in art. Culturally, Vietnam is home to 54 ethnic groups, each with its own language, clothing, and heritage. The Viet, or Kin, make up more than 85% of the population. Other groups, such as the Hmong, known for their textiles in the north, and the Cham, famous for their ancient Hindu temples in the south, enrich this vibrant mosaic. In traditional attire, the highlight goes to the Áo Dai, a long tunic worn with pants, usually made of silk or cotton. It is a symbol of elegance and cultural identity, often combined with the iconic non la, the conical straw hat used both as protection and as a practical tool in the fields. The Don Gan baskets, skillfully carried over the shoulders, are trademarks of street vendors and rural work, especially in agricultural zones that still sustain a large part of the population. The strong French presence during colonization, which began in 1887, left visible marks on the cities, cuisine, and architecture. One of the most popular legacies is coffee, prepared with the traditional aluminum filter called fin, which has become a national passion. Another French influence is the daily coffee habit, which has become a true cultural ritual in the country. Vietnam is also one of the largest coffee producers in the world, not only consuming it, but also exporting flavor and tradition. In the arts, a highlight is water puppet theater, an ancient popular expression that combines folklore, live music, and manual skill, enchanting audiences in villages and urban centers. Tết Nguyên Đán, or Lunar New Year, is the country's most important festival. Celebrated in the first days of January, it paints the cities red and transforms the streets into stages for fireworks, dances, prayers, and family reunions. But it is not the only one. In different regions, other celebrations express the deepest roots of local culture. In northern and central Vietnam, for example, traditional festivals such as buffalo fighting bring entire communities together to watch battles between the animals. In the south, there is the vibrant elephant race, a mix of competition, folklore, and tribal identity that draws crowds every year. And as if that weren't enough, there is also the impressive ox race in the mud, part of the Khmer Sina Dolta festival in An Giang province. In it, pairs of oxen run along flooded tracks, splashing water and mud as they compete to honor their ancestors and celebrate the agricultural cycle. Meanwhile, in the Mekong Delta, floating markets are much more than commerce on boats. They are centers of social life where sellers and buyers exchange fruits, vegetables, and stories on the water. The environment is colorful, lively, and noisy, reflecting the soul of the people who live there. And speaking of movement, Vietnam is the land of motorcycles. There are more than 77 million of them circulating daily, especially in large cities like Ho Chi Minh City, where traffic becomes an urban ballet of honking, weaving, and collective precision. In Saigon alone, 7.4 million motorcycles serve 8.4 million inhabitants, not counting the 1.5 million other vehicles that circulate daily. Finally, there are lesser-known but equally fascinating curiosities. Vietnam still maintains traditions of mummification, with examples such as the mummy of Dom Khai and the embalmed body of Ho Chi Minh, preserved in Hanoi as a central figure of national identity. This is everyday life in Vietnam, an intertwining of past and present, of rituals and noise, of devotional silences and bustling markets, all pulsing with the strength of a people anchored in their past as they continue to move forward. Vietnam is a single-party socialist republic, where the Communist Party of Vietnam occupies the center of political power. Founded and historically led by Ho Chi Minh, the party controls all of the nation's decision-making processes. The president, currently Luong Quang, is the head of state, elected by the National Assembly, while the Prime Minister, Pham Minh Chinh, nominated by the president, leads the government's daily affairs. The nation is divided into provinces and municipalities, which are further divided into districts and communes, forming an administrative network that connects the most remote rural areas to the major urban centers. The National Assembly, composed of about 500 members, is the main legislative body, but it operates within the party's guidelines. Although the Constitution provides for judicial independence, cases involving perceived threats to the state tend to face political influence. No opposition party is allowed, and Vietnam remains one of the 5 existing single-party communist states in the world. Despite its centralized political structure, the economy has undergone a profound transformation in recent decades. Since the implementation of the Choi Moi reforms in 1986, the country has shifted from a rigidly planned economy to a socialist-oriented market economy, opening space for the private sector and encouraging foreign trade. The collapse of the Soviet Union forced Vietnam to expand its commercial relations with other nations, and today its export network stretches across the globe. Economic growth has been remarkable. In recent decades, GDP has advanced at an average of about 7% per year, supported by sectors such as manufacturing, technology, agriculture, and tourism. Poverty reduction has been impressive, dropping from more than 60% in the early 1990s to just 2.9% in 2022, placing Vietnam among the most successful cases of social transformation in recent history. Agriculture remains vital, with highlights including rice, coffee, and especially cashews, in which the country leads global exports. At the same time, the manufacturing industry is growing rapidly, with factories producing electronics, textiles, and footwear for international markets. Tourism is also expanding, attracting millions of visitors each year, driven by curiosity about its history, landscapes, and culture. Maintaining a one-party communist system with strong control over politics and society, Vietnam was driven, out of necessity, to gradually open its economy and seek integration into global trade, especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union. This move allowed the country to reconcile its centralized political system with an increasingly market-oriented economy in a process of accelerated modernization. Picture yourself before the Banjiok waterfalls, on the border with China. The deafening roar of the waters crashing down in multiple tiers blends with the mist hanging in the air, creating a hypnotic natural spectacle. It feels as if the border disappears, and only the force of nature matters. But the journey is just beginning. Further south, the Pongur waterfalls reveal an almost architectural beauty. Known as the seven-tiered waterfall, each level is perfectly sculpted, as if carved by hand. During the rainy season, the volume is breathtaking. In the dry season, the stones emerge, creating a scene from another world. From natural splendor to human grandeur, the mausoleum of Emperor Kai Din in Hui combines Eastern and European styles in a single monument. Porcelain and glass mosaics decorate the walls and ceilings, while stone statues guard the courtyard. It is more than a tomb. It is a testimony to power and art. In the heart of Ninh Binh, Tam Kok Lake stretches like a mirror, reflecting limestone mountains that suddenly rise from the ground. Sailing through its waters in small boats means crossing natural gateways, passing through caves and rice paddies that change color with the seasons. In the remote village of Ha Giang, Vietnam shows its most authentic side. Surrounded by dramatic mountains and cornfields, it is home to ethnic minorities that preserve centuries-old traditions. Here, time seems to slow down. Still in Ninh Binh, the climb of more than 500 steps to the top of Hang Mua rewards visitors with one of the country's most impressive views. The landscape of rivers winding among rock formations is breathtaking. In Phong Nha Ke Bang National Park, Hang En Cave opens into surreal dimensions. On the way to the legendary Son Doong, it shelters an inner beach where few have ever set foot. Nearby, Phong Nha Cave displays ancient formations, illuminated by golden reflections, creating an almost otherworldly scene. Back in the mountains, the rice terraces of Mu Chang Chai spread in perfectly aligned steps. At dawn, mist covers the valley, and the soft light paints each tier with shades of gold and green. The scenery changes radically in the dunes of Mui Ne, where Vietnam transforms into a desert. Red and golden sand mountains shift with the wind, creating patterns that look hand-painted. In the central highlands, the Dre Nur waterfalls form a wide cascade that plunges over an extensive light-colored rock wall, creating a white curtain that stands out against the greenish tone of the river. Beneath the plateau, a natural gap allows visitors to walk behind the falls and admire the landscape from a rare angle, while the constant roar of water echoes across the region. History comes alive again in the imperial city of Hui. a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with walls, temples, and palaces that narrate centuries of imperial power. In Da Nang, the Golden Bridge defies imagination. Supported by giant stone hands, it stretches over the mountains, connecting to the French village, a complex that recreates the atmosphere of a medieval French town. Also in Hue, the Tien Mu Pagoda rises on the banks of the Perfume River. With its octagonal tower silently watching over the city for more than 400 years. In Hanoi, the Tran Quoc Pagoda is the oldest in the country. A symbol of devotion that has endured dynasties. The Long Bien Bridge, survivor of wars and bombings, remains a living reminder of resilience. Meanwhile, the Mai Sun temples, ruins of the Yampa kingdom, reveal a unique architectural heritage in Asia. Hoi An ancient town enchants with its lantern-lit streets and preserved colonial houses. The Bao Thien Pagoda, on the other hand, is a spiritual landmark dating back to the 11th century. In the south, the Lin Phuoc Pagoda impresses with porcelain mosaics covering every inch, while Da Nang's Dragon Bridge spits fire on weekend nights. The Po Nagar Tower Temple complex, built by the Cham people, contrasts with the modernity of the Bai Din Temple, the largest Buddhist complex in Vietnam. In contemporary architecture, the tallest building in Vietnam dominates the Ho Chi Minh City skyline, while the Turtle Tower on Hoan Kiem Lake in Hanoi symbolizes legends and resilience. The Duong Long Cham Temple and the Ban It Cham Temple reveal little-known medieval towers of the Cham people, hidden gems in the landscape. The stone lighthouse of Khe Ga, isolated on a small island, has guided sailors for more than a century. And finally, the Kiss Bridge in Sunset Town, Phu Quoc, is pure architectural poetry. Two bridges that almost touch, like a kiss frozen in time. A perfect ending to a journey through Vietnam that defies expectations at every stop. If there is one way to understand the soul of Vietnam, it begins at the table. Food here is more than nourishment. It is an encounter between history, climate, and identity. Each dish carries the freshness of herbs, the fragrance of spices, and a lightness that balances sweet, salty, sour, and spicy in perfect harmony. Among all recipes, none is as emblematic as pho. Emerging in the north in the early 20th century, this rice noodle soup, submerged in an aromatic broth prepared by slowly simmering beef or chicken bones with spices, is served from dawn in bustling streets. Eating a steaming bowl of pho on a Hanoi sidewalk is to experience a daily ritual that unites generations. Another symbol of Vietnamese cuisine is goi quan, the fresh spring roll wrapped in translucent rice paper. Filled with shrimp, pork, herbs, and vermicelli, it is served with hoisin peanut sauce. Unlike fried rolls found elsewhere, Here the focus is on freshness and lightness. In cities and villages, the golden crepe, known as ban jeo, draws attention with its crispy crackle when broken apart. Made with rice flour and turmeric, stuffed with pork, shrimp, and bean sprouts, it is wrapped in green leaves and dipped in fish sauce, creating a contrast of textures and flavors. In Hoi An, Cao Lao is famous for its firm textured yellowish noodles. According to local legends, this characteristic comes from water drawn from an ancient city well and treated with wood ash, an artisanal method passed down for generations. Served with slices of roasted pork, bean sprouts, and fresh herbs, it is a dish unique to the city and rare outside the region. The city of Hue is famous for bun bo hu, a rich and slightly spicy soup where the aroma of lemongrass blends with the intense flavor of meat and red broth. It is considered an imperial heritage and a local pride. For lovers of bold flavors, Bun Ryu offers a sour and fragrant broth made from crab, tomato, and herbs, served with thin noodles. Meanwhile, Hanoi's Bun Cha combines slowly grilled pork with rice noodles and a sweet sauce, a true street classic. To finish, Vietnam is also passionate about coffee. But here, it takes on personality. Cha Pe Sua Ja, strong coffee mixed with condensed milk and served with ice, is a sweet, energizing pause amid the tropical heat. From the simplicity of street markets to the sophistication of imperial recipes, Vietnamese cuisine is an invitation to taste, feel, and understand a country where every flavor tells a story. Traveling through Vietnam is more than driving along roads or visiting monuments. It is about feeling the strength of a people who turn challenges into identity, who preserved millenary traditions while making room for the new without forgetting their roots. Among landscapes that seem painted and cities that never sleep, every encounter leaves a mark, whether in the smile of a street vendor or in the silence of an ancient temple. If this journey has awakened your curiosity, share this video so more people can discover Vietnam through a new lens. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue with us on this 360-degree journey around the world.